Hey everybody! Sorry I was late. I had a little bit of technical difficulties, but it's still 8 o'clock. It's just a little bit past 8. So, today we are going to be doing another Letters to Penny, and on this um, discussion, I'm going to be talking about, if you look at the thumbnail, the it's basically how to decisions that I've made and events in my life that actually have improved my life and have made it for the better. And it's specifically talking about after Kristen passed away. So at that point in my life, so basically, Kristen passed away, and on immediately after that, for the first month, I was just like overwhelmed with things that needed to do. So I was making sure that because Penny was still in the NICU, that um, she was taken care of. Actually, my air conditioner's on. Let me turn that off so that I have good sound really quick. That should be a little bit better. Oops. Okay, so yeah, that first month was really intense because it wasn't expected, obviously. Uh, the first month, um, basically, I had to figure out how to come up with money for a funeral because I didn't have that much saved up. I had some saved up, but I didn't have much. And the um, and that was going to be a big thing. I also was overwhelmed because Penny was still in the NICU, but she was going to be released. She was actually going to be released the day after Kristen passed away. They actually were kind enough to help me out for a few extra days so that I can get things situated because I needed to make arrangements. I also needed to um, take care of finding a babysitter and things, a whole bunch of other stuff that I needed to do to get things like life situated to move forward. And um, the uh, so I didn't really have time to grieve at that point because I had just so much stuff to happening. I remember that the day that it did happen, at first, it took me maybe about 10 minutes to actually cry for it to actually set in. And the moment that it set in was when I called into work to tell them that I wasn't going to be coming into work because everything that had just happened, and I was explaining it to them, and like I started explaining it, I was like, oh my god, this is real, this is happening. So that was pretty tough, but it was kind of a moment where things happened and you just kind of move forward and get because you have to. It's like things are going to happen one way or another, and you need to make sure that they're happening the way you want them to happen. And the so that was kind of where all of this started. For the first month, I was really busy, so I actually ended up at the end of the month finding a new place to live because I owned a house in that was about 90 miles away from work, so I was commuting a long way. And in Southern California, if you know traffic there, it is really, really intense and crazy. So I um, didn't want to do that, being a solo parent with Penelope and being able to um, not see her as often. We were originally doing that to save money, but then now with Kristen in the picture, I have to pay for babysitting because my family is all working age still my dad, my mom, and then Kristen's family. Her mom actually stayed for an extra month and took time off from work to be able to help around the house and help with the baby, and so we can settle things down. She helped me interview the babysitters and things like that, so that was amazing. It was a ton of help. So um, I learned really on, and one of the things, decisions that I had to make was learning to immediately depend on people because I couldn't do it all by myself. So that's like number one decision that I had to make. That's really tough for me because I was always very independent and I wanted to make sure that I did everything on my own. But the issue was that there was so much stuff going on and happening that I couldn't do it all by myself. And even if I could, I'd be so drawn and worn out that it wouldn't really be like I wouldn't be really living life. I would just be going through life at that point. Um, so learning to depend on people, and as a new parent it's like hard because you want to do everything for your child and you kind of had these ideas in your head that you wanted to be able to take care of her and nurture her and do all these special things for her, and all of a sudden your kind of plans are out the window. So that's when the community around you really helps bring you up, and having that core group of people that actually cares about you and loves you and is willing to help you in a time of need is really important. And it came from family, like I said, but it also came from amazing friends as well that picked up the slack where I couldn't do things that I wanted to do. Also, the nurses at the hospital, because we were already at the hospital for 3 months, watching Penny and things like that because she was in the NICU, to be able to, so they like actually created a pool and they collected diapers and money and a whole bunch of different things, clothes, and there was so many people at that time willing to give what little they had to help us out in this situation. So Penny had formula because Kristen was originally planning to breastfeed if she could, but obviously now that's out the window. So we had to pay for extra formula. We had to figure out diapers. There was all these sorts of things. So it was amazing because we had diapers for like a year and a half after Penny was born because of all these people helping. We had money to pay for the funeral. I had enough money to be able to move closer. At that point, I actually wanted to rent my house, so I found a friend that was willing to rent my property in California, so that I can actually rent another property that was closer to work. So I ended up being about 5 minutes, I mean, not 5 minutes, but 5 miles away from work. During traffic, that could actually be in LA like half an hour drive, but I made sure that I scheduled everything where it was a short drive, so that way I can make it uh, to work and home very efficiently. So after things settled down, after Kristen's mom went home because she had to work, again, she's working age also, so she needed to take care of her own things. Um, it basically became just Penny, me, and the dogs, and with the help with the nanny that we had at that point. We went through a few nannies early on just because I was still struggling with that first thing that I was telling you, being able to depend on the community and being able to accept help and know that things aren't always going to be exactly the way you want it, but sometimes even though it's not, it's actually ends up being better. So I had this block in my head where I didn't want to or couldn't accept help if it wasn't exactly the way I wanted to, but I eventually learned that leaning on people's strengths will actually be better for me to be able to move on through this process and make a better life from here on out. Um, yeah, uh, Thanks, Karen. Yeah, the being able to accept help is just something that you have to do. Um, so after that first month, things calmed down. People slowly kind of, because the immediacy of the kind of situation went away. You are because the immediacy went away, it actually made it so that like people eventually kind of faded out and started doing their own thing, and that's to be expected because everybody has to live their own life and move forward that way. Um, thank you, Six Functional. Uh, I I'll get to the YouTube community later on in the story, but YouTube is very awesome. It has been very helpful so far. Um, so after that first month, like I said, things slowed down, and I had more time to start thinking about things that I was doing and things that I wanted to um, and things that happened and things like that. And it actually got me to this state where I was kind of like in a loop stuck in my head, just thinking about things that happened. What can we do different? What should we do from here? And trying to like optimize. I have like this mind that just goes full speed all the time. If there's something, a problem that needs to be solved, I have trouble sleeping. I have like all these issues that just doesn't let me move forward. So I spent probably like a good 6 months at least or more where I was barely able to function at like kind of a baseline level where I was like, yes, I was feeding myself, I was feeding Penelope, making sure that she had a bath, making sure I went to work, but past that, I was kind of numb and in this constant state of like thinking and being stuck in this loop of all this craziness that has just happened and how to make the situation better, how to make it, how could I have changed things? And during that stage, I learned that sometimes there's just things that you can't change, that there are things that if you think about it too much, it's going to overload you and get you kind of I would I don't know if medically I was that way, but I would assume because I was grieving and everything that I was depressed. So um, getting into that state where you just couldn't do anything for so many days in a row. What I ended up doing in 2013 in late, probably actually, it was probably really close to the time that Kristen passed away. I found out about Veda, Vlog Every Day in April. And I felt that it was a good way to motivate me to actually do something. And it was something that I enjoyed for a long time is filmmaking and creating videos and things like that. But I always found excuses. Oh, I don't have time. I can't do this. I can't do that. So with Vlog Every Day in April, I started this channel, YouTube channel that you're watching on it, not the podcast if you're listening on audio, but we're live streaming this on YouTube. And back in August of, I believe it was August of 2013, it was when I did the first beta, and you can actually see um, that Veda at that point was kind of a way for me to speak about things that were happening and just start creating. And I found an awesome community on YouTube with people with similar goals. Obviously, a lot of people haven't gone through what we've gone through, but they are creating and they're passionate, and you kind of get enthralled in the excellence of creating or the process of creating. And that is kind of part of the process. One person that just commented right now in the live stream, if I can figure out how to do this. There we go. Um, your everyday dad. He was one of the Veda participants, not in 2013, but in the most recent one right now in 2018. So 5 years later, in April, I met your everyday dad, and he's part of the people that are in this core community of YouTubers that I've found online that actually really help and motivate other creators, and it makes the whole experience that much better. One thing that I like about Veda that really was important to me at the time was that you had to create a video every day. And that's part of why I've kept on doing that way and why I come back to creating videos every day was because if I didn't create every day at that point, the um, I just would get sucked back into the depression that I was in. And again, I wasn't medically diagnosed with that, but I'm assuming it was. But I'm just calling it that right now for ease of explaining the emotional state that I was in at that point. But the emotional state that I was in, if I didn't create a video every day, I wouldn't end up creating videos and I'd get stuck into that loop where I was like, oh, I'll do it another day. But it got me into that rhythm. And when I started the channel, what I called the channel, it's different now than it was back then. I started off calling it Extonless, and it was the mission that I had back then is actually part of the mission that I have now. And Exton was short for Kristen, which was my wife's name. So it's kind of like Christmas, you do Xmas, but with Kristen, it was Ixton. And Christmas is one of her favorite holidays, and it was her nickname, Exton. So it was a channel, and is a channel that has been dedicated to the life of my wife, my late wife. And then list, which was the second part of the title, was for bucket list, except that it was a twist on the idea of the bucket list, and that's why I changed it to be called Exton List, because it was a list of things that I was doing every single day to move on and live my life, because it was something that I wanted to make sure that I did. And something like reflecting back even before everything happened was that I wasn't doing as much as possible as I could. So making sure that I was doing something every day that was worth living for. So vlogging every day in April actually really helped me to kind of concrete that idea of needing to do something every day. And if I passed too many days um, in a row, that it would be if I passed too many days of not creating, or if I passed too many days where I was just kind of sitting in front of the camera and just talking, I'd know that I was doing something wrong. I was moving away from my goal, because I don't want to be stuck in the house doing nothing and just stuck in my thoughts. There was somebody that just commented, millennial musician, can't stay long, 1 a.m. here, but I thought I'd drop in for a bit. Thank you, millennial musician. He's another person that was started, I think he started in the middle of Veda last time, in April of this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the community also that has been creating videos and encouraging people and things like that. Yes, I plan to do Veda again this August. So, I mean, it shouldn't change much of what I'm doing already anyways, because I am creating videos every day anyways. Um, so it kind of lets me continue on with that goal, and it also adds to the community. Okay, so it looks like a few people are going to have to run out, but thank you for stopping by, and I appreciate you guys spending the time here. I'll continue on with my story. But the extent list with the channel was really kind of a turning point, and starting YouTube as well, and getting that idea of creating a video every single day, and being able to um, make sure that I was doing something important every day, and that I wasn't stuck in the house and in that void of emotion that I was in. Um, so as the I did Veda, and I kept on going for a little while after that, and I was like, at that point, well, maybe I'll just take some time off. And then I ended up taking like a year off of creating videos, and that's when I realized, like, if I'm not constantly creating something, I'm not going to be doing it. So I need to constantly, it's just the way I physically or mentally or whatever have been kind of functioning. So I noticed that if I don't make it part of a routine, and that's another thing that I recommend to be able to improve your life for the better, is set up routines that actually push you to do things and achieve goals that you've set. Because if it's not routine, it's kind of a bit awkward. I mean, it's not something that you necessarily have to create every day like I am. It's just what works for me. But do it once a week. I would recommend doing it less than once a week, but once a week would be a good starting point, and depending on how much time you had for things like that as well. When I started off on the YouTube channel, a lot of what I was doing was hiking videos and outdoor kind of time videos, and then also talking head type videos. So with the hiking videos, I feel that that was another thing that really helped me out through that situation. I was doing a lot of reading, that being out in nature actually helps you get through a lot of tough emotional issues, and also physical activity, building up you get serotonin from the physical activity and things like that. So that, in conjunction with creating the routine of needing to create a video every day, I think really helped me to start moving forward. And talking to people that were knew me back when all of this was happening, and before, and recently, like just the last 6 months or so, they're telling me, hey, you're starting to seem like what you used to be. Like, there was always something, like, kind of, that you can tell that you weren't in the right mental state. Not like I was uh, going like off the deep end or anything, but that I was just kind of not emotionally there, um, or at least not as happy or active as I was before. So it's been a whole process that has taken me years. And I also feel that um, when I was um, beforehand, I wasn't at the highest level that I could potentially be at. So the event of my wife passing away, or my late wife passing away, kind of triggered it, where I was thinking, hey, life, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow. And one of the things that I also learned from that, because my wife, a lot of times she was really sick because she had type 1 diabetes. And sometimes she needed to be pushed around in a wheelchair when it was starting to get really bad. Sometimes she would get really dizzy. Sometimes there was just a slew of issues. She had osteoporosis for a while because of the diabetes. It was causing weakening of her bones, so she got Charcot's foot, which was kind of, her bones broke in her ankle and started collapsing on themselves and things like that. So there was a lot of physical issues. And when she would talk to me when she was still alive, she would tell me that there's so much I want to do in my life, and I just can't. I wish I could, but I can't, because she had these health limitations that were stopping her. Sometimes she couldn't walk that day. Sometimes she couldn't do this. Sometimes she couldn't do that. A lot of times she would have like issues with her vision, where she would have trouble seeing just like 3 or 4 feet in front of her. And she's like, I have all these life goals, but I feel like every time I start feeling good, there's something that pulls me back, health wise, And that sentiment really stuck with me, especially after everything happened. I start thinking, what's my excuse? Why am I not moving forward on my goals that I want to do? Why am I not achieving the things? Why am I not moving forward? Why am I just stuck doing the same things I have been doing for the last 30 years? Well, maybe not 30 years, but at least 10, 15 years. Because I was 30 when she passed away. She was also 30. Um, but thinking about that situation and realizing that I have no limitations, no excuses of why I'm not moving forward moves me today. I think about it and I'm like, if I get stuck in a rut and I'm not doing something, I start thinking about that. I'm like, wow, I really need to make some adjustments because I don't have any excuses right now. Why am I not doing it? It's just I made the decision not to. And the more I thought about that, the more I realized that it wasn't okay. That we need to make life worth living every day, even if we're struggling, even if there's issues. And for a lot of you guys that have been watching me lately and noticed that a week ago or a couple weeks ago, I stopped making videos for a week. And that was kind of like another time where I started getting stuck in my head. I had just recently come back from VidCon, and I was from that high at VidCon coming back home, and I felt like I had just gotten my wallet stolen. My car broke down. I needed to go through the whole process of getting all my identification back. I needed to get my car fixed. I ended up buying a new car. It was also it would have been my late wife's 35th birthday, so emotionally that was on my mind. And I notice every year I kind of get a little slump at that time. It's not on purpose, but it just like subconsciously happens. I get a slump around her birthday. But this year I've been able to pull myself through faster than I have in previous years. When that happened back in 2013 and it came to um, June to her birthday, that's when I stopped creating videos and I stopped for almost a whole year. And this time I was able to bounce back after a week. So it's a whole process, but you always have to reflect on what you're doing and make sure that you move forward and that you don't let these things that are all, I wouldn't say all are just in your head, but it is something that you have to overcome because if not, you're not moving forward. And a big part of life, I feel at least, is every day making sure that you're moving. And even if you fall backwards, you're at least moving. You can get back up and keep on going. But if you just completely stop and give up, there is nothing that you can really do to improve or do better. And I think that even if you're doing the wrong things, doing something is better than doing nothing because at that point you've given up. And um, are you really living at that point if you're not doing anything and you're just doing the same cycle every day? Going to work, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, that kind of stuff. There were a few comments. Let's see. Millennial musician, really touching stuff here, man. Thank you. And caring, grieving takes time. Yeah, that's something that I've learned a lot. And um, another thing that I haven't really mentioned before, but that was kind of tough at that point, was that there was a lot of death in the family at that point, and following that. So, like I had four grandparents, and within the span of like 3 years, all of them passed away, along with my wife. And throughout this whole process, I was also working on my master's degree. That was another thing that I struggled to finish, and I guess part of the reason why I took a break was to be able to finish my thesis. So I at least I was doing that if I wasn't doing YouTube. But that was a really touch and go because I took time off from my thesis and then I came back and then I took time off. It was also my third time attempting getting a master's degree, I was like at the last semester, so I needed to finish it, and I'm glad I did because it's gotten me the job that I have now. But it was a lot of times emotionally tough to go to school and be able to finish that as well. Um, so um, with everything that has happened, I guess kind of recapping, and then maybe you guys that are watching can help me out a little bit too. Um, the first thing that I learned throughout this whole process was that you can't do it all on your own all the time, that you need to be able to accept help from people, and that it's not necessarily always going to be exactly the way you envisioned it, but that when you accept help from people, sometimes it can actually give you things that are even better than what you envisioned in your head. So that was the first thing. Um, was accepting help and being part of the community, making sure you have a good community of people around you, family, friends, things like that. Um, then number two was making sure that you are moving forward and that you're creating something on a regular basis, or at least that you're doing something that makes you happy on a regular basis. Because I found so many days throughout the whole ordeal, and even now, that I was just like doing the routine every day, and my routine was to just kind of survive, like eat, shower, work, and sleep, and then that was it. And um, if you ever see yourself in that pattern, make sure to break it. And for me, YouTube has been the way that it helps me break that pattern because I can actually go through an archive and I have it documented as like I have 1, 2, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, a week in a row that I'm just talking in front of the camera. That means I didn't go out and experience the world. So that is breaking the routine and doing things that are worth living for. That was number two. And then number three was that um, know that you don't have excuses, or maybe you do have excuses, but when I look at myself at least, I know that any issues that I have are nothing compared to what other people have. And when I look at that and look at what other people are achieving or what other people want to achieve, it makes me feel that like I have no excuses and that I'm wasting an opportunity if I do, because that's a new community that I've expanded on. And something happened to my screen. Did it happen to you guys where it turned purple? If it did, I am sorry. Um, I'll just finish this up really quick. Hopefully we're getting the audio still. The YouTube community and the Veda community has really helped me in my life move forward. And and I want to say thank you to you guys and thank you to all the future Veda participants and past Veda participants, because you guys changed my life for the better. And I am thankful for that from you guys. Okay, so I guess, yeah, it is purple for everybody. I'm sorry. So we're going to cut it here. I'm glad that there's still audio. But thank you, everybody, here in the YouTube community. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.